Why is pneumonia so dangerous? Slow version. Every time you breathe in, air travels down the trachea through a series of channels called bronchi, and finally reaches little cluster of air sacs called alveoli. There are some 600 million alveoli in the lungs, adding to the surface area of roughly 35 square meters, the size of a tennis court. These tiny sacs, only one sac filled, facilitate a crucial exchange, allowing oxygen from the air we breathe into the bloodstream and clearing out carbon dioxide. Pneumonia wreaks its heaviest on this exchange. Pneumonia is an infection of alveoli that causes them to fill with fluid. There are many different kinds of pathogens that can cause the pneumonia. The most common ones are viruses or bacteria. These microscopic invaders enter the body via traveler either in the air we breathe or when we touch our eyes, noses, or mouth after touching a contaminated surface. Then, they visit the respiratory tract's first line defense, the mucociliary escalator. The mucociliary escalator consists of mucus that trap invaders and tiny hairs called cilia that carry the mucus toward the mouth, where it can be coughed out. But some of these invaders may get past the mucociliary escalator into the lungs, where they meet the alveoli. Because alveoli serve as critical exchange points between the blood and air from the outside the wall, they have their own specialized types of white blood cells or macrophages, which defend against foreign organisms by enveloping and eating them. When pathogens enter the lungs, and macrophages work to destroy them, the immune system releases additional white blood cells in the alveoli to help. As these immune cells fight the pathogens, they generate inflammation and fluid as a byproduct of the inflammation. When this fluid builds up, it makes gas exchange inside the alveoli much more difficult, as the level of carbon dioxide in the bloodstream begins to rise. A body breathes more quickly to try to clear out and get more oxygen in. This rapid breathing is one of the most common symptoms of pneumonia. The body also tries to force the fluid out of the alveoli through coughing. Determining the cause of pneumonia can be difficult, but once it's established, doctors can prescribe antibiotics, which may include either antibacterial or antiviral treatment. Treatment with antibiotics helps the body get the infection under control. As the pathogen is cleared out, the body gradually expels or absorbs fluid and dead cells. The worst symptoms typically fade out in about a week, though full recovery may take as long as a month. Otherwise, health authorities can often manage pneumonia at home, but for some groups, pneumonia can be a lot more severe, requiring hospitalization and oxygen, artificial ventilation, and other police measures while the body fights the infection. Smoking damages the cilia, making the lungs able to clear even the normal amount of mucus and secretions, let alone the increased volume associated with pneumonia. Genetic and autoimmune disorders can make some of the more susceptible to pathogens that can cause the pneumonia. Young children and the elderly also have impaired clearance and weakened immune systems. And if someone has viral pneumonia, their risk of bacterial respiratory infection is higher. Many of deaths from pneumonia are due to lack of access to health care. But sometimes, even with appropriate care, the body enters a sustained fight against the infection it can't maintain, activating inflammatory pathways throughout the body, not just in the lungs. This is actually a protective mechanism, but after too long in the stage, organs start shutting down, causing shock and sometimes death. So, how can it prevent pneumonia? Eating well and getting enough sleep and exercise helps your body fight off infections. Vaccines can protect against common pneumonia-causing pathogens, while washing your hands regularly helps prevent the spread of these pathogens and protecting those more vulnerable to severe pneumonia. When it comes to keeping your hands clean and germ-free, which works better, soap or hand sanitizer? One more with original speed. Every time you breathe in, air travels down the trachea through the series of channels called bronchi and finally reaches little cluster of air sacs called alveoli. There are some 600 million alveoli in the lungs, adding to the surface area of a roughly 75 clear space the size of a tennis court. This tiny sac, only 1 cell thick, facilitates the crucial exchange along the oxygen from the air we breathe into the bloodstream and the clearing out carbon dioxide. Pneumonia wreaks havoc on the exchange. Pneumonia is infection of alveoli that cause them to fill with fluid. There are many different kinds of pathogens that cause the pneumonia. The most common ones are viruses or bacteria. These microscopic invaders enter the body by dropped either in the air we breathe or when we touch our eyes, noses, or mouths after toxin contaminates the surface. Then they reach the respiratory tract's first line defense, the mucociliary escalator. The mucociliary escalator consists of mucus that trap the invaders, and tiny hairs called the cilia carry the mucus toward the mouth, where it can be coughed out. But some of these invaders make the past mucociliary escalator into the lung, with their meaty alveoli. Because alveoli serve as critical exchange point between the blood air from the outside world, they have the one specialized type of white blood cell or macrophages, which defends against foreign organisms by enveloping and eating them. When pathogens enter the lungs, the macrophages work to destroy them. The immune system releases additional white blood cells into alveoli to help. As these immune systems fight the pathogens, they generate inflammation and fluids as body products of inflammation. When these fluids build up, it makes gas exchange inside the alveoli much more difficult. As the level of carbon dioxide in the bloodstream begins to rise, the body breathes more quickly to try to clear out and get more oxygen in. This rapid breathing is one of the most common symptoms of pneumonia. The body also tries to first exploit out alveoli through coughing. Determining the cause of pneumonia can be difficult. Once it's established, doctors can prescribe antibiotics, which may include either antibacterial or antiviral treatment. Treatments with antibiotics helps the body get the infection under control. As pathogens clear out, the body gradually expels or absorbs the fluid and dead cells. The worst symptoms typically fade out in about a week, but full recovery may take as long as months. Otherwise, health others can often manage pneumonia at home, but for some groups, pneumonia can be a lot more severe, requiring hospitalization and oxygen, artificial ventilation, or other support measures while body fighting the infection. Smoking damages the cilia, making them less able to clear even the normal amount of mucus excretions, let alone the increased volume associated with pneumonia. Generic antibiotics also can make some of the more susceptible to pathogens that can cause the pneumonia. Young children and the elderly also have impaired clearance, weaker immune system, and as some with viral pneumonia, their risk of bacterial respiratory infection is higher. Many of deaths from pneumonia due to the lack of access to health care, but sometimes, even with appropriate care, the body enters a sustainable fight against the infection it can't maintain. Activate inflammatory pathways throughout the body, not just in the lungs. This is actually a protective mechanism, but after too long in the stage, organs start shutting down, causing shock and sometimes death. So how can it prevent pneumonia? Eating well and getting enough sleep and exercise helps your body fight off infections. Vaccines can protect against common pneumonia-causing pathogens, while washing your hands regularly helps prevent the spread of these pathogens and protect those most vulnerable to severe pneumonia.